In this video, I'm going to show you going through that step-by-step brainstorming process and how we took his cold call script and created a new and improved sales pitch. And so this is the process, but if I go back through this process step by step, the process starts with trying to organize and brainstorm the key details around the product or service that you sell. And the product here is credit card payment processing. And so I recommend you view what you sell as being a box and try to think of everything that is in the box that your customer gets when they buy your product or service in terms of features and everything you'll do with that service that you're providing. So just using what this salesperson described in this example, and these features will depend on the service that you provide, but he provides local direct payment processing. His services are organized with a package called Consumer Pay, a package called Cost Plus. They provide a rewards program. Now, I recommend after you organize your features, go one step further to think about how is what I sell or my product different from the competition. And the next step in the process is to try to think about who is the target audience for this sales pitch. Now, this is certainly a step that you could skip, but I personally think going through this step could completely transform your sales pitch and can help you to communicate in a way where you hit the hot buttons that the target audience that you sell to cares about. And some things that you can think about when trying to think about who is the target audience that we're going after. You might be targeting different industries. You might be targeting different sizes of organizations or businesses. You might be going after different departments inside of a company or a business. Maybe you're targeting different levels in the organization. Different levels in the organization care about different things, and that could impact your sales pitch. But if you're actually just learning this process that I'm going through right here, a good place to start, or if you're creating your first sales pitch or sales script, a good place to start is to create a broad sales message, one that can be used for everybody. So one that could be used for different industries or different sizes of businesses. And that's actually what we're going to use here today for this example. We're just going to use a broad audience with creating a sales script and a sales pitch for businesses. And the next step in the process is to think about, well, when I sell that product to that target audience, what is the value that that target audience can realize when they buy from me or use my service? And not to get overly complicated here, all we're really looking for are 3 to 6 improvements that our product and service can deliver. And you may have those at the front of your mind, and if you don't, here is an 8-point checklist that you can use to help you to think about different ways that your product or service can help. So these are common ways that just about every product or service can help in the B2B space. And the first one is most services and products help to make something work better, help to make something easier, help to decrease the time it takes to do something, help your customer to increase their revenue or income, help them to decrease their costs or expenses, help them to improve the product or service that they sell, help them to decrease the risk of something bad happening, or help them to improve their visibility and their access to information. Now, what you can do with this checklist of common ways is you can bring back your features of your product and then compare all of the different things that you'll do to this list to ask yourself, when our customers use this or when we do this particular thing, does that help to make something work better or help to make something easier? And you can go down this list and ask yourself in each of these areas, is there an improvement that you can deliver? And if there is, then you can put some words around that to think of different improvements that you deliver. And a key thing here is that when you're going through this list, you still want to keep in mind the target audience that you're communicating with, because you might think of improvements that are specific to that audience. And that can really be helpful when you're targeting a particular industry or particular department in an organization. You might think of improvements that are specific to that particular type of buyer. But if we go through this list just thinking of businesses and thinking about the features of this service, how can we help businesses? Well, we can help them to lower their cost for processing cards. We can help them to pass the processing fees back on to the customers of the customers that you're selling to. So that's one way that you can help them to decrease their costs and help them to earn income when they're processing the payments for their customers. And the next step in the process is to think about any pain points that you can make go away for your customers. And again, all we're trying to do here is think of probably between 3 to 6 different challenges or concerns that we can help make go away and we can talk about in our sales pitch. And here's the trick, is that we can bring back the improvements that we just thought of on the previous step, because for each improvement that we create, there's typically an opposite problem that's resolved. So we can look at each of these improvements and try to think to ourselves, for each of these, what is the opposite of that improvement? Or what problem goes away when we create that improvement? Or what problem starts to happen if we're providing that improvement and we take it away or it's not provided? So we can go through this list one at a time, and we still want to keep in mind the target audience that we're creating this sales pitch for. And we can use this list to come up with this opposite set of pain points, such as credit card processing fees can be a big hit on profitability. Would be helpful if customers paid for the processing fees. Difficult to find new ways to earn income. And the next step in the process is to think about good questions to ask. I personally think the best salesperson is the one that asks the best questions, and you could agree with that 100%, but still not know exactly what questions to ask. This process will give you the exact and optimum set of questions that you should ask with this sales pitch. And it starts with trying to think of pain questions to ask. Pain questions are questions that probe for the pain that you can help make go away for this if the customer buys your product or service. And so to think of good pain questions to ask, we can bring back the pain points that we just came up with on the previous step, because for each pain point that we solve, there is a question that could be asked to see if the prospect has that pain point. So what we can do is we can go through each of these pain points and ask ourselves, what question would we ask to see if the prospect has that challenge or concern? And when we're creating these questions, we still want to keep in mind the target audience for this sales pitch. And with that, we can come up with this set of pain questions. How concerned are you about how credit card processing fees is impacting your profitability? How important is it for you to find ways to decrease credit card processing fees? How helpful would it be to earn additional income when processing payments? So those are what I refer to as pain questions. I also recommend you come up with a second set of questions that I refer to as current state questions. These are questions that try to identify what is the prospect doing in the area where you have something to sell. And these questions will be unique for each salesperson and each product. So I can't tell you what current state questions to ask for what you sell, but what I can do is provide a list of areas that you might want to think about creating a question for. For example, you definitely want to create a question prospect is currently using or has currently purchased what you sell, who they're buying from or who they bought from, any details around their current systems or processes, maybe details about people in the organization, current contracts and expiration dates. There might be sizing details that you might want to ask about, the current performance or stats of current systems or processes, maybe the last time they thought about buying what you sell. And again, you want to keep in mind the target audience that you're creating these questions for. And so using all of that, we can come up with these questions. Are you currently accepting credit cards? Who is your processor? What type of rate are you paying? How happy are you with their services? How long have you been working with them? When was the last time you explored other options in this area? Are you the right person to discuss this with? And the last step in the process is to think about a customer example that we can share as part of this sales pitch. And so what I'm going to give you here are 4 questions that you can answer or fill in, and you can use these 4 answers to create a very concise customer example that you can use as part of your sales pitch and sales script. And so the first question is, try to think of a customer that you've helped. And if you can't actually mention the name of a customer, you could just share a descriptive label of that customer. What problem did they have when they came to you or when you started working with them? What did you sell them to solve that problem? And then try to think of 2 improvements that your product or service helped to create for that customer. And when you're creating this example, it would be ideal if you keep in mind the target audience, because you could create an example that is similar to that audience. Now, we're just creating this sales pitch for businesses, but think if we were targeting a particular industry, it would be great if we had a customer example that was in that industry. So using those 4 questions and steps, we can create this customer example. We worked with a software business. They were not happy with the amount of fees they were having to pay. We helped to solve that with our local direct credit card processing service. This helped them to lower the cost for their credit card processing, and also help them to earn income while processing payments. And that is the process, and those are the steps that I went through to create this sales message. And each of those steps and each of these sets of bullet points creates what we refer to as building blocks, and you can then mix and match those building blocks to create a variety of different scripts. You can use those to create a cold call script. You can use those same blocks to create an appointment script. You can use those building blocks to create a cold email campaign, voicemail messages, objection responses. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of different documents and sales scripts that you can create from that sales message and from those building blocks. And I'm actually not going to go through and show you all of those different documents in this video for a couple reasons. First of all, I want this to be a fairly short video, and it would be about an hour long if I went through and showed you all those documents. And another reason is because I've already created another video that you can watch if you're interested that goes through and basically shows you all of the different combinations and scripts that you can create with those building blocks. But if you want to see those other documents, go to this playlist on our YouTube channel, The Smart Sales System, Sell Smarter, Not Harder, and video number 4 on writing sales scripts basically shows you the different combinations that you can create with those building blocks. And if you actually want to grab that sales message for payment processing, it's actually already loaded up in the Salescriptor software. We have a library of preloaded sales messages where we've gone through that sales message brainstorming process for a lot of commonly sold products and services and loaded those up in our software in the area called preloaded messages. And if you go in our software, you can grab any of those. And when you grab that, then your sales message builder is loaded up with all of those answers that I just went through. So you have a great starting place if you sell one of these products or services. And then once you grab one of those sales messages, you'll have access to our full sales playbook and library of sales scripts and email messages. All the different documents that you can create with those building blocks are here in the software. And that's actually where the idea for Salescriptor came from, is when I realized if I have these building blocks and these sets of bullet points, I can create a lot of different documents. And it was that realization that led me to creating Salescriptor. All right, so that's about it. If you want more information, the best place to go is salescriptor.com. Thanks for being here, and we look forward to seeing you on the next video. Have a great day. Take care. Bye.